In this video I'm going to talk a little bit about the parts bin. It's a very convenient way to draw your own models without actually having to know how to draw. So I have already loaded a flying field here along with a little aircraft. You'll see that the flying field has the field category selected. The aircraft has the model category selected. This tells the program that this is the model that I want to fly. I want to work in workspace 1. I'm going to change it so that it is the model. I go to my parts bin by clicking on the object. There are three main categories: the model, the field, and other. The model has a body, wing, tail, and other categories. The field has a ground, building, sky, and other categories. Let's go to the model and the body, and if we select one of these, you'll see that we see a preview of the type of fuselage that is stored in that position. For the fun of it, let's try the high wing narrow body. We'll make a little trainer style aircraft. And once I've selected which part I want to use from the parts bin, I click on use and it appears in the space. I'm using my mouse wheel to roll out, and then I'm rotating the view to see what I've just deposited in this workspace. So that's the body I'm going to work with. I need a wing. We have several here that come, and by the way, you can add your own objects to this, and we'll be updating the library by providing objects you can add to your library on the website over time here. So let's see, I think maybe something that looks a little bit like a trainer. This is a flat bottom dihedral wing. Looks like it has ailerons in place. It tells us that right here. The ailerons are all ready to use. We'll click use and the wing appears in the space. We'll need a tail of some sort. We have several available here. This one has a tail wheel. We'll probably go ahead and add wheels to this, so the tail wheel might be appropriate here instead of doing a tricycle gear. So let's say use on that. And in the other category, we have wing struts and so on. Here's a motor mounted to a nacelle. You could add to a wing motor if you wanted to. Let's choose this motor here and say use, and it's now in the space. So we also need some wheels on the front. This is a set of fat wheels. Here's a set of with a skinny little wheel mount. Let's use that. And so now we have everything in place that we're going to use in this model. I'll say done on the parts library. As you can see, all of these parts are sitting here. They need to be put into place and sized appropriately. And so I'm using, by the way, the middle mouse button, the wheel, pressing it and holding it in order to pan the view. Pressing the left button allows me to rotate. And so let's first of all put the elevator and rudder and the tail assembly in place. Let's rotate to the right side of the aircraft and select the fin, rudder, stabilizer, and elevator. I want to translate them to put them into place. I can click on the translate and move them back here. And as you can see, they're a little on the large size for this, so we need to resize them. I click on the resize, holding down my shift key so that all axes will resize at the same time. I bring it to a size that I'd like, and I'm finished with that. I can go to the translate and move it into position here, just like so, and that looks pretty good there. Let's do the same thing with the wheels. We have these wheels, axles, and wheel supports making up the wheels. If I translate those, and I realize now that I forgot the tail wheel, so we'll move it here in a second. I can translate these into position. They'll look good right there. Again, holding my shift key so that I'm resizing all, I'll bring it down to a size that seems appropriate for this model. And I want to translate it so that it starts a little higher on the fuselage here. It'll be inside the fuselage. I can rotate the view here to see, and yeah, that's looking pretty good. Let's take care of that tail wheel. I want to go back to the right side. Now the reason I want to go back to the right side is because if I translate this and I'm looking at a different angle, it'll move sideways in space, it'll skew. So I'm looking now for the tail wheel. Let's see where I had it. Oh, it's actually part of the rudder stabilizer. Here it is, the tail wheel and the tail wheel support. I'm clicking on one, holding down my Alt key to select the second one. I'll translate it into place back here. And it actually doesn't look too bad, that size. I might just go ahead and leave it that way. So let's say that that looks pretty good. The motor, which is the engine, and the prop are too large and in the wrong position. Let's translate them first out into the front of the aircraft here, and then let's resize them, again holding my shift key so that I size in all dimensions at once. I bring it down to a size that looks appropriate, and now I'll move it closer to the model like so. Let's rotate the entire view here and see what we've done. And we're looking pretty good. That wing, for a trainer, it's setting too high on the fuselage, and I think I'd like to have a little more dihedral in it. So let's go to the right side again so that we don't move it sideways in space. We'll select the wing, which includes the ailerons. Holding my control key, I can select additional parts here. And I'm going to translate it into place like so. I am now going to rotate my view so that I can see where that is, and that looks pretty good. I'm going to go to the front of the aircraft, so I'm looking dead onto the front. Go to my tools and click on my wing dihedral and change the wing dihedral a little bit, and that looks much better there. So at this point I believe I have everything in place for the aircraft, and sized in a way that pleased me. That tail's still way oversized, but I think it's kind of fun looking that way. Might be a good idea to increase the size of the wing. I'll go ahead and select all three of the wing components and clicking on resize, holding my shift again so that I'm resizing in all directions at once, and that looks pretty good there. Well, it's not my proudest work, but we are accomplishing our goal here and creating an aircraft from scratch through the parts bin, which is what we want to do here. When you're finished doing this, you need to set up the model's options. So you open and the first thing I'm going to do is put the wheels where I want them to be. Let's move the space out so we can see it a little bit. I'll click on drag for the center wheel and go ahead and with my left mouse button drag it back to the bottom of the center wheel of the tail wheel like so. I'll drag on the right wheel point. Now these are points that are used by the program where you're telling it where the wheel positions are. There are always three wheels available. You can think of the airplane as a three-legged stool. We can also move our centers if we want to. We have a center of view, a center of pressure, a center of gravity. The center of gravity for this aircraft would be right about here. It's important because it tells the program where the aircraft is going to rotate around and where the forces are going to be applied. For the pressure, it should always be behind the center of gravity. In line is good. I like it about like that. You could, if you wanted to, try to be more aware of the physical properties of the airplane you're designing, but I find doing something similar to what we've just done is fine. I'll say okay. One more thing I want to double check here. I want to select the engine and say engine, and I want to look at where by rotating this I should be able to see where my center is, and yeah, it's way out here in space. See where it is out here? So let's go to the right view, and I want to drag my center of power in line with the front of the aircraft like so. Alright, and with the center of gravity here, if I had this too high, it would actually, when I hit the power, it would turn the nose of the airplane down, try to rotate around the center of gravity here. So just bring the center of your engine so that it's sitting in the front of the aircraft like this, and you'll be fine. Okay, at this point I already have a field loaded. This workspace says says that it's the model. I can go flying now, so let's do that. And there's our new model we've just constructed sitting there. I'll give it a little bit of power and pull up, and looks like we need to do quite a bit with the controls. This is a terrible flying airplane right now. I'll land it, and still a lot of fun. Let's go back and see what we can do about the controls just a little bit. Under the model options, we have the strength of each of the control surfaces, the model's weight, an estimated area, and a drag factor, and so on. I think this is a weather vane factor, tells you how much force is applied to the model to make its nose point in the direction it's traveling. From the way it was flying, I think I need to change this drag factor to about 0.75, and these are things that you get used to and you start to know. The lift factor here I think was a little bit high. I'm going to change it to 1.5. And the stall angle is a little high. That's okay. If we lowered it, it would probably be a little more difficult to fly. I'll say okay at this point, and you can play with these all you want. When you are satisfied, you can also save them to disk, and you can load them with other models you're building so that you don't have to set them up each time. Let's say okay on that, and I don't think I'll worry about textures in this video since we're just worried about building the models. The textures are explained pretty well in the written tutorial. Let's say go flying and see what the changes I made did for us here. First of all, I want to just turn around here and take a look at it. Everything seems to be working right. Let's take off and see what we've done. And my trim is way out. I believe my center of pressure is probably incorrect here at this point. Let's see if I can get it down okay. And not very good. Looks like I need to do quite a bit more work on it. However, I'll do that in my own time and not burden you with it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you have fun making your own models with the parts bin.